now more than ever, we need to remember. We all need to take a deep breath. We are Americans. We're passionate in what we believe in, and that's okay. But the division is boiling over, and the situation is proof of it. Things have gone too far. Ask yourself, is this the future you see for your country? Violence, assassinations? I know it's not what I want. We need to remember each other as more than right and left. We are all children of the same cloth. Don't lash out in anger. Don't resort to or wish for violence. Bloodlust solves nothing. Be the difference you want to see. And do it with dignity. Show people who we are as a people.
Welcome to the 2400 Block Podcast with your hosts, Johnny Rubes and Ken.
Spin, intelligence, binge watch. Johnny Rubes with the wisdom, never botch. Dark thoughts ventilate, any crave knowledge. 2400 crew, like Ripon College. Clever minds unite, discussions land tight. Sync up thoughts, intertwine, never bark trite. Nights up, lights down, we the crew profound. Johnny Rubes know the truth, bomb is going round. Catchy beats, the block that never sleeps. 2400 sound in your brain it creeps. Catchy sounds, the block that never bounds. 2400 tossing substance out of sounds. Catchy beats, the block that never sleeps. 2400 sound in your brain it creeps. Catchy sounds, the block that never bounds. 2400 tossing substance out of sounds. We dropping facts raw, no gimmick or flaw. Explicit mind grind, caps up in more. Humor with all blend, thought patterns extend.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the 2400 Block Podcast, and I have Ken back on. Ken, how's it going, bro? It's been a while.
It has, man. I think about the block every day because it's the block that I met you on, and it's the block that I'm often talking about the mental health aspect, which is an extremely important topic for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas most people are just kind of figuring out their mental health and what even it is, or coming to date in grips with mental health. I'm deep in the trenches, so I miss being able to talk about it because so many people out there don't really know. They think they do, but they don't. They really don't. I actually had to educate a friend on the word dissociating.
Yeah, it's been a while though since I last seen you. So yeah, definitely, man, we got to get caught up here, man. Fill me in on how life has been for you.
I haven't had a chance to. Have I interviewed you yet?
No. That'll be coming up in the next episode or something. No, not the next episode, but the episode after that, because we have a interview. We're going to have another session with the one and only Molly Schlachter, part 2.
Molly.
So,
yeah. I made a song for Molly.
Oh, really?
I actually did an unplugged version of the song Molly from Molly is the group. Obviously, and 16 Candles is a song, but I did because I'm in that season of my life where I'm entertaining my scene. So yeah, I was like, I remember on the podcast, I actually sang.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, but I went home and I actually was like, yeah, I'm going to get this song. I'm going to do a remix, blah, blah, blah. Molly, can't wait to have her back on.
Yeah, can't wait. You're going to be looking at my pictures. Oh, yeah, you get to look at my pictures. And I still have it on the hard drive. Thank goodness I did not get rid of those.
Oh, that's right. You were supposed to bring your pictures in, right?
Yeah, and it's still right there. So.
Because we were busy gawking over my shit. Oh, okay.
Oh, no. That's how it is, man. When you are, like, critiquing something, it's not just something, that is going to be just talked about for, like, less than a minute. We like to go in deep with it. Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know how to say this because I'm a passionate person, and I'm a perfectionist and detail oriented person. More than that, um, I'm learning. It's not an official diagnosis, but
Uh-huh.
I am being treated for auditory processing disorder and sensory processing disorder,
Mm.
and those are
What is that
so
in layman's
auditory.
terms?
In layman's terms,
Uh-huh.
I can hear what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
but there is like right now there's an air conditioning. The
Oh.
air conditioner is on, and then the air blows, and then there's a filter where it sucks up. So in the other room, it's making this sound.
Oh,
So
okay.
in my brain, that sound is constant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not loud like you would hear it, but in my brain, it's constant. So if I'm hearing you, you might say something straight the way it is.
Uh-huh.
I might hear it wrong, or I might process it differently. Like
Mm.
all information processes through that drone. There was a therapist that told me that it's a drone in my head that's drowning out sound. So um, the way I get information is greatly affected by that for my world.
Uh-huh.
This is stuff that I got told a month ago because I'm going to therapy for neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is layman terms, right? There is no
Yes.
layman terms, but
Okay.
in the medical world, you get as layman as you can. It's rewiring the brain. So
Mm.
your brain is wired a certain way based on your environment, based on your interactions, based on what you're learning, feedback back and forth from the world. So neurofeedback is an artificial, it's AI, but it's
Uh-huh.
technically when I go there, it looks like 80s AI because they still have a desktop with these graphics from not Atari, but maybe Nintendo 64 days, baby,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But basically, it's an artificial intelligence providing you feedback on. So I'll click a button. It's all about this EEGs hooked up to me, and I'm basically it's monitoring my nervous system. So if
Oh.
you have too much tension, it monitors that, and it's basically retraining your brain um, how to think. So if I
Mm-hmm.
have, and I got actually told by Sam, Sam, she's my
Yeah.
best friend.
Uh-huh.
We don't say ex-spouse because we have a unique world we live in the neurodivergent world.
Yeah.
But matter of fact, our relationship is much better than it's ever been.
That's good.
But she said, "Oh, your responses and your reactions have been dramatically great."
Mm-hmm.
And the neurofeedback is like going to the gym for your brain. It's a it's a brain gym because you're clicking
Okay.
on your. Let's just give you a perfect example: a game where you have to remember the sequences of a trumpet, the sounds you're hearing. So it
Oh.
goes do 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 do, but you got to remember after it goes,
After it goes, uh-huh.
click the buttons exactly in that sound, and at the same time, there's going to be a bunch of little pictures and sounds happening. So your brain has to filter the sounds, filter the distractions, still
Uh-huh.
remember the sounds. 20 sessions. Friday would be my 20th session. And I have improved because it was fucking frustrating. And for
Uh-huh.
my brain, I don't like frustration. That's all I deal with. So going back to what I was saying is that the neurofeedback and all this stuff has dramatically improved um, the frustrations. I kind of forgot. I kind of deviated because right now I am kind of getting over dissociative episode, but deviated from
Uh-huh.
why I brought that up. Why did I bring that up? The neurofeedback.
Mm. Oh my goodness.
Right. So I see right now. I I was tying it into something, but my point is that um, it's it's so much that's happening in my world that
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine if I wasn't getting therapy right now. Like the known world, is the neurotypical in this verbiage, because we were talking about layman terms, even though I lost track, and I rarely lose track. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Even being a neurodivergent, is that most people are in this world doing it naturally, and it's hard. And then when you dissociate, that's kind of what I wanted to kind of grab into, is a disconnect from your state of being.
Hmm.
Literally.
Oh, by
I,
the way, the reason why you came up with that neurofeedback thing to me, because you said you were just recently diagnosed with that.
oh, you asked me what is, yeah, auditory
Yeah,
processing
I'm
disorder.
trying to remember.
Um, yeah, and okay, so to tie that up, auditory processing disorder basically is you're just your hearing
Mm-hmm.
is greatly affected by the information. So it's, you know, basically construed. So I might get upset about something. That's not even what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sensory processing disorder is, um, it's not complicated, but in layman's terms, remember the scene of Superman in the newer Superman movies where it's
Huh?
showing little Clark Kent in the classroom?
Yeah.
That's sensory processing disorder,
Okay.
because the world is overstimulating. Now, another scene in The Flash where I forget her name, she was the female superwoman. God, I hate when I don't remember my DC characters.
You
But
mean
she
the
had to,
the Flash movie that just came out in the theaters?
yeah, the Flash movie that came to the theater, and it was
Was it Supergirl?
Supergirl, but it wasn't Supergirl. She was Clark Kent's or Superman's cousin.
Yeah, it's like a dark-haired version of
Yeah,
Supergirl.
dark hair version, beautiful.
Yeah, she
But she
is.
experienced that in that moment. She can hear everything, smell everything. Everything is magnified. So for me, it's 101 degrees today over here in Redlands, California.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when I was younger, I don't know, it's different, but I can tell you that burnout, stress levels, so many factors have magnified my sensories to where this hot day, I go out, I'm wiped out, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And then it causes dissociation because I'm unable to process the heat and operate and all that. And then I'm just wiped out. But now it's causing dissociation because of the burnouts from disappointment and trauma and so on and so forth.
Uh-huh.
So it's now even worse. So if I'm in an environment, I can hear you talking, this person talking, I can hear almost everybody talking and what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of information coming at you. So my son may be talking, and kids, they're going to scream randomly. Those random sounds are overstimulating immediately. And because I don't control the sound, it
Yeah.
hits me like a Mike Tyson punch to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, sensory processing and auditory processing is greatly one of the some of the biggest factors in autism.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the reason why it's hard to get an autism diagnosis is because one, you're not a kid anymore, and two, people on the spectrum is so wide. They're really only focused on Asperger's, or there's four different aspects of ASD,
Mm-hmm.
but they're focusing on the obvious, like the ADHD, the hyperactive kid, or the kid that's an easy space cadet like me. It's just that back then the hyper kid got all the attention because it's obvious he's disrupting the class, So our world I'm seeing is ADA friendly to handicap physical disabilities, but mental disabilities are unseen because we were all, in some form or fashion in your culture, taught to mask out everything. and given it to a behavior. It's not. It's a neurological thing. So funny enough, I was getting ready to give my son his medication, his afternoon medication, and one of the neighbors stopped me, and maybe one day she'll see this podcast. If she doesn't, if she does, you know me, I'm a real person. I'm saying what I gotta say. And she is known as the Eat a Dick Lady because one of our friends, one of the friends we met, she I don't want to call her a Karen, but Karens are the ones that are going to speak up about things even if it's not their business, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So she came and approached this person, and it's frustrating because you're on the spot. Eat a dick. So from there we call her Eat Her Dick Lady. I don't have that relationship with her because I'm a master masker. I'm going to be cordial and all that. In my mind, we're the Eat a Dick Lady because that moment. But I haven't had those kind of interviews. Most of mine have been positive because of the way I am. I'm a very people person. But I'm also not saying everything I'm emotionally disturbed about. But this particular moment, she came at me today regarding my parenting. And I was like, lady, you don't even know me at all. She was basically saying that she was questioning my parental role as a father. And you know me, I'm a proactive person when it comes to a lot of things. So
she was Ken, was she like basically just observing you, and that's how she's judging you, just through observation, just looking at you and your son interacting?
It was an interaction she had saw, locked in her mind, brought up to my attention today. We do have again, I'm a very neutral person.
Yeah.
So everybody's my friend. But I don't feel it was your position to question me about my parenting because you don't know me and you don't know what I deal with. You are 75 and you're giving me 75-year-old wisdom. Naturally, I respect the elders, but you also got to remember your generation, or we can separate this in two categories. Your generation, also the racial aspect of it is the white culture are more privy to psychology and things that terms and bipolars and ADHDs, and black culture. And this is, again, not factual. These are just my opinions. So there's no trolling or controversy here. I am always observing, but she had observed me mention about being bipolar and being very open about my mental health. And you already know I'm already open about my mental health because it's not, this has been brought up before by someone that I speak too much about my mental health. I'm not ADHD. If you knew my journey, and I'm going to officially, on this podcast, officially update the shoot first and ask questions later statement. If we shoot first, then ask questions, you don't know who you're harming because you never looked through the scope and studied your subject. Like a sniper. A sniper doesn't just sit there, pop, 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 pop. No, he sits there for days, hours, making sure that who he is targeting is the person, in fact, they're supposed to get, or it's murder. Technically, it is still murder, but in the world of snipers, it's not, because it's a mission, and that's a whole other subject. My point is, she's talking about me that I mentioned something about being bipolar. She had kind of generalized it. And she said the word bipolar. And I was like, she heard me talk about mental health. And I was like, she just didn't want to mention it.
Uh-huh.
But she was like, well, Diego's watching you. So you should watch what you say and yada, 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 right? Now, mind you, I'm in a season of my life where I'm getting to know who I am. So therefore, who I was circa 10 years ago when I first got diagnosed with ADHD wouldn't even be talking about that stuff because I didn't grow up talking about depression, anxiety, any of that stuff. It was foreign.
Uh-huh.
You either were bad or you were good. That was it.
Yep.
10 years ago, I got introduced to that. I'd heard about ADHD, but I, again, like everybody else, maybe, the hyperactive kid. That's the only person, and it was ADD. That was it. 2024, I am an unofficial psychiatrist. No, it's not psychiatrist. I'll say psychologist because I don't issue medicine. I don't give nobody my medicine or anything. Don't get it twisted, people.
Uh-huh.
But I'm way more educated because I had to be. Because 10 years ago, I was giving that diagnosis, but I wasn't given an orientation. I was not told, hey, this is what ADHD is. This is how it may affect your life. These are the things that we're going to do to help you with your executive dysfunction, because that's a big part of it. Your frontal lobe is not motivated. And that's this part of your brain in the front is your CEO. It says, hey, I should be on time to this appointment. I should get up at this time to get there on time. Oh, I should prepare this so that way I'm not doing it to the last minute. Oh, I should, it's just so many time man organization, all that for a person with ADHD is it's not a fantasy. It's a cool story, bro. Cool story. I'd love to be that way. But the way, like Kevin Hart would say, the way my middle bank account works, I got to transfer my thoughts to my frontal lobe. And, sometimes, it takes about 3 days before it hits my front of my brain. By that time, I'm already late. I already forgot. I'm already, bills shut off. Dishes have been in the sink for 10 years and clothes in ADHD world is called a closet floor. My closet is, the floor is the closet. These are real things, but they're not what was before said lazy. It is a neurological, they say disorder is a difference. The way I process this is not the way society is giving it to me, or society is giving it to me this way. My brain doesn't process it that way. So I may have to have, like learning styles. Some people learn by auditory. Some people learn through visual. Some people learn through touch.
Yeah.
Our world is one way. Neurodivergence is, hey, it's not one way. Never was. Just letting you know. This term's been around since the 90s. I forgot the psychologist who came up with the term. But saying that word and speaking my truth is making it real for me. Because 10 years ago, I didn't get the orientation. I'm giving myself the orientation. So when a 75-year-old person comes to me, I'm still going to be the guy before 10 years ago that's respecting my elders, making sure I understand, especially that I've been doing neurofeedback, right? My brain is on swole. I'm able to process because she's saying something about my parenting. I am feeling offended, but it's not personal. What is she saying? These things are going through my head. But when she started speaking, I was like, oh, she thinks that I'm not aware of what I'm saying. Oh, she thinks that the things that he's doing, I'm just parenting him just from a place of personal opinion. And you should do as I say, not as I do, or whatever that term is. Lady, I have spent all 6 years of his life trying to figure out this brilliant individual who is just like me and his mom. Just like it.
Well,
To the
Ken, I
point
think
where,
she's really trying to compare you to, maybe to her upbringing. I know she's part of a baby boomer generation. So,
yeah, and
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, but
Mm-hmm.
she did say something in the conversation that helped me understand she's not reading from the I'm an elder book. I'm an elder, so
Uh-huh.
listen to me. She said that one time she was, um, not one time, many times. They're at the dinner table. He has
Mm-hmm.
his little high chair, and he's grabbing the food and releasing. What happens to the parent who's no longer that age? We got reprimanded, or I bought this food, so you're wasting it. All these things that are very logical are going through our head. She said some word that seemed a little dated, but
Uh-huh.
but it was kind of a cool word, and I forgot what she said. But basically said she was frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, God gave me a book. I'm not big on religion because of my trauma, but
Uh-huh.
I translated, the universe gave me a book. The universe gave her a book, and it was about the first 3 years of life. And it told her that a child's going to do this because they're testing the release and drop of something. Gravity. They're learning gravity. That updated her brain. Therefore, her reaction to that afterwards was different. And when we were
Mm-hmm.
conversating, I said, no way, I didn't say this, but I said, stop there. I have been doing nothing but that. So you probably caught me in a moment where I'm tied. I was probably parentally burnt out, but I'm definitely 10 steps ahead of shaping him for who he is, not what I want.
Oh.
I'm 10 steps ahead of not going, you're bad. You shouldn't, you're wasting food. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I still do it because, dude, you do have to transition into what this food means on this table. It is going to give you nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But what was interesting in that moment is that, yes, it caused more dissociation because it was hot. We're talking in the 101 sun.
Uh-huh.
But I was able to sit there and not get frustrated with the fact that, tell me something I don't know, because I'm already doing it. You just happen to caught me and you're shooting first and not asking questions. So for the sake of the audience, with people in general, but especially in mental health, because I did mention my suicide and she brushed it off. That
Mm-hmm.
hurt my feelings. Because I said, you know what, I have, in a year I'm in this rehab process, and I'm glad I'm here because I survived. I said it like that and say, well, I almost died. I just basically hinted
That's messed
towards,
up though, man. That's messed up.
but she kind of said, yeah, but yeah, but you just invalidated me.
Mm.
You were trying to get your point across, your wisdom across, because you think he's a great father, but I'm comfortable with him. I just want to give my little 75-year-old wisdom here and
Mm-hmm.
make sure he understands. But if she had to ask questions, she would have realized I I I study mental health like a scholar. I study child development, specifically my child's development, like a scholar. So she would have said, what I noticed that you said such and such.
Uh-huh.
And it made me think, what are, there's a book, or she would have brought up something educational right there. We would have nipped in the bud that I'm on a mental health journey right now. My life's mostly about mental health, and he's me. He has these things. It's not a secret. So we don't shield him from our reality, because mental health and his neurodivergence is very present, just like the hyperactive kid, because he's that
Mm-hmm.
kid. He is that kid. He's the kid that don't go to sleep, don't want to ever go to sleep, don't know what sleep is. And he's the kid that will play. You know how when you're, give them some rice in their bottle so they can go to sleep, go to the playground. My kid don't care nothing about that. His body doesn't care about what wears him down. He actually gets more energy. So
Mm-hmm.
she don't know this stuff. And that's my brain was able to process, okay, she doesn't know this. Because maybe last year I'd have been like, beep, you don't know me. Beep, that, So it was really it was really interesting because it was happening like just moments before this podcast. I'm like, people walk around just barfing on people with what they perceive is validated knowledge.
Yeah. Ken, how long has she known you now?
I've been in an apartment building. We've been there
Is it
five
over a month
years.
now? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we really started really interacting in probably the last 2 years because
Okay. Oh, okay.
I, I, contrary to popular belief, I'm an outgoing person, but part of what I'm getting to know about myself, I really don't like being an outgoing person. It's exhausting. It is socially exhausting, and in the background, I come home after going to an event and I'm done because I take my mask off. Now, is that saying that is the outgoing fake? No. There's introverted extroverts, there's extroverted introverts, whatever you want to call yourself, but that has been my survival tool, but it's exhausting. So, I never really talked to her like that because I was like, why? I'm an indifferent.
Mm.
But she felt comfortable enough to talk to me, and I didn't grill her, but I will say it did feel critical in a moment where I didn't need more criticism, where
Uh-huh.
I need lifting at this point in my life because I need a lot more than a boy. You've been doing this thing, teaching yourself that a boy.
Yeah.
Um, because it feels rejecty. When you're constantly getting criticism, but not a lot of praise, and that happens in kids. So she doesn't realize I know that. I don't criticize him. I'm teaching him boundaries because he is a boundary pusher. He's a risk
Mm-hmm.
taker. He's a boundary pusher. That has nothing to do with what he's doing. It has everything to him understanding his place in the circle. I can't help that society has all these rules. But I will tell you, yeah, daddy breaks them too. But we gotta, you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
gotta, we gotta live here with other people. So we gotta, we can't just be out there just invading people's spaces. And she probably didn't realize that's really mostly what my struggle is. She thought it was saying being Kendrick, basically. That's what I
Yeah.
call it, being Kendrick. She thought being Kendrick was not good for him. I was like, my son loves me beyond measure, you know, and I know that I'm doing great parenting because I get complimented all the time. But more so, the barometer is him. The kid's going to tell you because he's blunt, you know. He's a blunt kid. He speaks his mind. He don't
Yeah.
sugarcoat nothing.
It tells you
Just like
things
I do.
nonchalantly.
Yeah, this kid's me, like 6. No, he
Uh-huh.
was me at or him. Um, he's been him since 0. This Diego has been himself, and most people in that world of development will use the development aspect to just say, "Oh, in a year," and it. But what they don't realize is the parent don't get a parent book. Parents don't get a neurological book, a DSM. any kind of introduction to anything that's child development, we bring in our traditionals that we got parented in, whatever little education we got along the way, and you're going with what you know. So maybe the barometer is, I don't choke my kid out and he's not abused, which is a horrible thing to say. But I'm far from, like far, far, far from a parent that's sending my kid down the wrong path, because it's very clear in his actions. It's just making sure that he's, for the lack of a better term, not going to jail. Because when you don't, discipline is love as well. Too much discipline is an authoritarian. Too little discipline is the passive parent. Right in the middle is that sort of, hey buddy, not gonna let you carry on like that. It's gonna be a little destructive. Tip, boop, just letting you know.
So you're just like right there in the middle, right?
Yeah, right there in the middle. And sometimes I tip over to authoritarian because he pushes the boundaries, and I have to bring him back to earth.
Yeah.
But if I don't, there ain't nobody who has the patience. They look at what most people look at, sugar. I think people look at sugar and how sweet and how awesome and but they know good and goddamn well that ain't the case, and they don't want to tell the truth about parenting or what they're struggling about, because everybody has to mask on, mask off, mask on, mask off. And then when it's time to tell the truth about your kids, mask on. You don't say that. But the truth is, your kids drive you fucking nuts. And the world, and you will know, because if a kid goes to his class and tells the truth, because kids tell the truth more than anybody in the world, that's going to come out anyway. So another big place in the world should be a forum, especially with children, and to tie that topic up, is a place where parents can talk shit about their kids and get it out of their systems, because we didn't get brought up with knowing how to. I have two. My kids are amazing. I'm lucky that I have nurturing skills and all that stuff. But there are people who are like, I want a kid, but I really had no idea this kid is going to be such an asshole. But what they don't realize, that's not assholism. That's the kid discovering something. You just have to get it out of your head, what your words that we say, as if they're an adult, and then get educated on what's happening. So that's why I said I knew what she was trying to say in that moment. Is just I wish she had to ask questions first, especially being a teacher. She's a teacher. You're a teacher. You should have asked questions first.
Yep.
You shouldn't have let 75-year-old you just go, I'm comfortable with him, and I'm going to just tell him this. You should have went a little scholar with me, because I'm a scholar. So, it's an interesting world we live in, and I think it's the time in the world where it's time for us to take down our masks and stop. Well, I just thought I saw a little something fly off to the side. Stop just shooting first and ask questions. Like the term is, ask questions, get some intel, do some recon, then shoot.
And that's what little kids do. They love to ask questions. They are, the greatest observers.
That's the best actual part about children, is the fact that they ask questions. Yes, daddy, 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 daddy,
They're very curious.
Matter of fact, he hasn't actually he's gotten out of that stage. Remember, I'm not sure if you remember the movie Trolls.
I have not seen Trolls.
Okay.
I guess I'll have to see Trolls.
A scene where the kid does daddy, and rips his dad's chest hair out of his head to get his attention.
Oh, wow.
That's a real thing in my world. It ain't the chest hairs. but he will get your attention like that because he's not aware. That's another part of the sensory processing disorder, is that not knowing where the vestibular and proprioceptives, it's in your ear and your where you are in space, or and the difference between you and the next person. So there's a song that I it was perfect. I didn't even know it was sensory processing disorder until Sam discovered it. But it's called Crash by Dave Matthews Band. It's a perfect song. You got your ball, you got your chain tied to me, tie me up again. And it's like, crash into me. And this song is just, it really depicts our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
But there really should be a place where parents could, maybe you could talk to Gabe about that,
Yeah.
Barton!
Yeah.
Need a
Yeah, we
place
need to
where
get them
parents
back
can
on.
talk shit about their kids and not be judged and not be parent shamed, and get it out of their systems, and then get some more appropriate tools so parents don't end up in burnout and we don't have CPS's call and child abuse and all that stuff. We're staying in the realm of parenting and understanding. So really, when you're at the hospital, the next thing they should be doing is sending you off to college on parenting and how hard it's going to be. So you get the reality from other parents, and then some educational things from scholars, and then some real world scenarios where you go out and you probably hang with parents with your kid. And we learn from each other, not from cultural things that have been passed down, because obviously parents, they call it toxicity, but they only knew what they knew back then. You're Filipino, you know what I'm talking about. I'm Black,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. They knew what they knew. Does it work in 2020, 24? Probably not. Now we have a whole world of gender identification, something that the boomers really have to get used to, because there are boomers that are part of that people that couldn't be with who they wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Caitlin couldn't be who she wanted to be because of these generational perspectives, and the paradigm didn't shift until she said, "Nah, dog." So if we had a parental class, I think a lot of these conversations would cease to exist. We'd be putting energy towards more evolutionary stuff. So we wouldn't be talking about childhood trauma because our parents were ignorant to who we were. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's,
man, dissociating. I do want to talk about that. That is something that probably even people in the mental health world don't really talk about much, because it seems like a word you hear and you just walk past it. But if you wanted to interject at all, feel free.
man, I'm just
Because
learning.
again, I said my outgoing side gets exhausted, and I'm learning to just
Just trying to learn more about you, Ken. I'm not gonna try to come up with some insinuating remarks.
well, which is asking questions. I
Yeah.
mean, what you're doing right now is what the world needs to start doing. Not listening for reply, listening to understand.
Yeah.
I met a person with autism more recently, and it's fascinating because once I understand patterns, behavior patterns, neurological patterns, and things like that, I can now spot ADHD, autism from a mile away.
Uh-huh.
So I was in the, I'm a veteran, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Or for those who don't know, I am a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. So I was at the pharmacy, and I noticed in in autism, there's either social disconnects where you may not know exactly what to say or how to express yourself, and it's called mirroring. So if I say hi to you, you mirror and say hi. In autism, they're going back to the Superman thing. I don't know how to be human, so I'm trying. It's weird. If I hug, how long should I hug? If I say this, is that going to be offensive? I'm not sure. And a lot of people with autism will stitch who they are from movies. Now, yes, we do. A lot of what we do in this world is stitched from things we've seen, but with autism, it's a little different. It's quite literal because it's building a character and rehearsing things. Whereas for me, the struggle is emotionally. I did not know the difference between anxiety, anger. It's all one emotion to me. So I was emotionally disconnected. That's why I'm closer to a Dexter in the spectrum. I'm indifferent to everything. Everything. That interaction with that lady is on a cue up Kendrick, who is nice to old people, and you know her, and you're hot right now, so you should just listen, because just do it. But the me really was like, I gotta go to give my son his medicine. I don't care about what you're about to say right now. But I did. But I've stifled my emotions because I didn't know how to process them. And also in the autistic world, it's called introception introception and inception. Oh, sorry, introception, which is a connection to your body. So I can and this will kind of segue into the dissociation aspect. I could be sitting up there listening to you, but I'm hungry, and I can't really tell if I'm really hungry or halfway hungry, because my mind is, off at the races 24/7. So I should be saying, "Hey, I gotta go because I'm hungry." I've conditioned myself to suffer and keep it pushing, or so on and so forth. By doing that over 30 years, my dissociation episodes are greater because I'm not fulfilling my sensory need. My sensory need to be out of the sun, because I have heat intolerance. I didn't really realize that until it's been bad. And if you keep ignoring your sensory needs or your own personal needs, eventually it will become an alarm so big it's now your biggest struggles. My biggest struggles are my sensories, because I've allowed myself to sit in a moment like with that lady and not honor the fact that I don't want to be here. I have anxiety. I don't want to sit here in this conversation at all. Or if I do, I want to do it 2 minutes, and I don't know how to communicate that. So I'm learning how to communicate my emotions regarding something or my sensory need. So, so shortly after that, or before that, Sam and I were actually dealing with the garage, because we moved in there and it just became a fucking horrid mess. But the heat hit me, and then going back into AC, I was done. So then talking to that lady, I'm done. Working with my son this morning, I was done. So my dissociation got greater and greater. It's now getting close to block time. I'm like, I guess perfect. Because I'm completely, what it looks like Kendrick looking all great, but I'm literally stumbling over what I'm hearing, what I'm supposed to be saying, where I'm at, what am I doing right now? All that's happening in that dissociative state. Nothing is real anymore because of constant ignoring those sensory needs that my barometer was in my world. And we've been through a separation. So again, that's a part of the dissociation. My world was my family. My world was this. Again, going back to the autistic world, stitching things together. Stitching this world together becomes my comfort zone. I've stitched together a family environment. I've stitched together keeping it pushing. I've stitched together, when you go to a job interview, you say the right things and you make sure they like that you understand the direction of doing all these things don't add up to the result that it was yesterday. I'll just say yesterday. So once that happens, and it happens more constantly, I dissociate more because I don't understand how to interact with the world anymore. I don't. I literally am like, oh, so I thought you were supposed to work and then, or I thought you were supposed to meet a girl and then you guys work through life and she don't assume that you're supposed to know it all because obviously I didn't have a father.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work. 3 relationships in, boom, my brain's like, then I must not be a great spouse or whatever. And then you go out into this new world of trying to meet new women, and it's like, me too. Me too. I don't consent to this, and I don't consent to that. And it's not even hitting on women like that. What I'm saying is, your most genuine efforts to meet will greatly come with rejection because we live in a society where they only have 2 minutes for you to entertain them, you know?
Yeah.
So all these little things are sitting up here in a black cloud on top of that moment with that lady, on top of the heat. So my brain is going to go, oh, shit, I got rejected. And it might not even be that. It's just her basically giving her opinion. Anybody else, But that great weight of stitching the world together and it's no longer what it's supposed to be got me detached. As if before I was detached. I'm naturally a detached and different person. Being in situations that I don't want to say I'm not genuinely acting, but I'm best way I could say is sending out my representative to assess the scene before I'm ready to be there. So that way they got my spokesperson, but then the real person's like, nah, we should get out of here. But the spokesperson's like, well, we already made friends already. Everything's awesome. But yeah, I don't want to do this, you know? So the dissociation is happening more because the world that I'm living in now is more of my introvert going, yeah, I'm taking over because I don't want this and I don't want that. Whereas the survivalist in me, the military guy, does whatever it takes to survive. And autism, auditory processing disorder, sensory processing disorder is nothing but survival. Being neurodivergent is nothing but societal survival. I don't really know how to organize myself, so I'm going to use my creativity and I'm going to mask and pretend and I'm going to do this. And you get so good at that, it looks like you know what you're doing, but I don't. And I'm really just getting acclimated with a calendar. I'm really getting good at going, Yeah, it's on my calendar. Let me check my calendar. I just thought it was a cool thing to say. People really do check their calendars because they can't just fly off the hip like I do.
Yeah.
I'm a master at improv. I'm a master at making things look good, but on the background, it's that guy and that statue with the weight of the world holding it up. Oh
Ah,
my God.
that's
I
in New York
can't.
City. I remember that statue. I think it was
Yeah,
Atlas.
the Atlas guy. I can't.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Okay. Oh.
I'm not sure, but I got to turn my water alarms off. I have water alarms because that's where I'm at.
Okay.
I have to get to a point where I have to start telling my truth. And that is what that lady was hearing. She's hearing me be myself because if I don't have an alarm, I will sit there and wipe my mouth, thirsty as hell, talking because I'm so focused on what I'm talking about. I forgot about my own body, the interoception things I was talking about. So a person will go, how the fuck can you forget to eat? How the fuck can you forget to drink water? Aren't you thirsty? I am, but I've become accustomed to survival. So if being a survivalist in the military and being a survivalist as a man and being a survivalist as a family member, giving your kids things before you isn't enough to disconnect you from yourself, what is? Because the foundation of that, I was always a neurodivergent. I was doing it. It just became more compounded because of all those roles,
Mm-hmm.
and then another neurodivergent is probably going to judge you just like another person would. I'm like, hey, you struggle with the same stuff. What are you talking about? And it's like those those little things in the world. It's time to stop being quiet. It's time to I really should have educated her more,
Yeah.
but I'm not prepared. I'm not confident in who I am truly to just say, beep, pump the brakes, skirt, skirt, skirt. You're goes right in the whip right now. You're talking sideways, lady. And start bringing on my facts because my struggle with mental health is new. It's 10 years, but only 1 year proactively making it my mission. 1 year. 1 year that I've, year and a half actually. When I went to the hospital in 2022, I went to the hospital before 10 years ago. That's kind of when I learned about ADHD. But back then, I learned the word self care. I learned, I learned through groups that um, I'm not sure what I learned back then. All I know is I got pulled out of society for about a week and a half in Kaiser, and I'm sitting in groups and we're doing meditations and scanning, body scanning, and we're making art projects in the site ward. And at that moment, I was just glad to not be inundated by the world. I was like,
Yeah. Not worry about a thing. Just
oh
focusing
my
on you.
God, bro. I
Yeah.
was I was working for a call center back in 2013,
Wow.
and no, it was when I went to the hospital. Yeah, 2013. Yeah. I was working in a call center. In a call center, if you want to talk about an autistic nightmare, people calling, people wanting what they want in the hotel industry, then they're getting rude with you because you didn't get them what they want, and you're already on the phone being super awesome by getting them prices that they can really work with. When they don't teach you to do that, they're just it's this constant um, human shit show,
Mm-hmm.
and I got tired of that, and that I at the time, my mom was dealing with, I was having family issues with my mom, my brother, on top of me going through my first divorce. I shut down. I was like Smokey Robinson, I was the clown. You see this,
Tears
how
of a
does Smokey
clown.
Robinson with the smile on my face?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you
The
see
tracks of my tears,
the
if I remember that
tracks
song.
of my
Yeah.
tears.
Smokey
So, I
Robinson.
mean, that was the first time that I had a mental breakdown because I was like, man, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still getting this shit. But I didn't learn a lot because all they really do when you take you there is give you medicine. And they're there, just don't kill people or hurt people. Essentially is what the psych work is. If you admit that you want to harm yourself or you might harm people, you're 5150. That is on your record for 7 years, just in case you didn't know it, viewers. If you ever get put in, make sure you don't get a 5150 hole, or make sure you just don't use the kill word because you might just be entertaining the word in your head and it might not be real. For me, it's real. It's not a fucking joke. It's real. It's because to me, it's a way out.
Uh-huh.
I don't look at it as, oh, I shouldn't do this. I look at it as, oh, okay, this is finally I can be done with this bullshit. Great, but my willpower, who I who I know I'm supposed to be, my role as a father, those are the only things that kept me because and obviously I know it's not logical because the next day, and learning that emotions are waves. That's another thing. Emotions are waves. They come and they go. They ebb
Yep.
and they flow. You might be mad about something today. Doesn't mean you should send. You should probably leave that on your notes. Then send it, maybe later, because you might not even want to say that.
Yeah.
You know, my responses have changed and my reactions have changed because I've been proactively. I think I was designed like when I met you, I was in Amway, and Amway teaches
Yes,
you
you were.
about positive mental attitude books, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A lot of who I am on a social. I'm fidgeting, by the way. This moment was brought to you by the Popping Dinosaur. ADHD friendly, not distracting for others. Back to you, Bob. Um, so back then, I was just doing the best that I could, but I realized, positive mental attitude books are not even touching the surface of the mind. Everybody thinks it's an attitude. It's not an attitude. People don't get mad for no reason. People don't murder for no reason. Everything has a foundational basis back to the mind. And I've always been I guess who I am was always predisposed to PMA or betterment, or because I was told in therapy I'm more of a logical and wise mind person. I've always been connected to the universe, but I was not connected to my emotions. So when I learned about this stuff, going back to the cultural thing, I'm now a black man and a man. That's two levels. A man, a black man, and learning about what's going on with my mind. Because in the black world, you're aggressive. Oh, just be afraid of black people because they're aggressive. But to not dive into that one deeply, black people were systematically ripped apart psychologically. You don't think that carries over every generation because it's called quantum physics? It does. goes to the genes. But our way of survival was just keep it pushing. A lot of cultures have that, but that was like a main feature in the Black culture. We don't talk about Bruno. We leave that person in the basement or whatever, But if we're talking about reality, we're in 2024. We can't. It's literally archaic and a ruin to be that ignorant. When you clearly see this person, and then they go to a school and shoot. But you're also going to take that person and villainize all bipolar, all mental health people because this person shot. Ask questions first. Don't shoot. Because the same person you're seeing on the TV is you. You just didn't do it. That's the difference. So I now understand life a little bit more better because I proactively decided for the second time on record to survive and understand what I've stitched together 30 years of my life as an adult. I've stitched together what society wants. I've stitched together neurotypical thinking into my very neurodivergent world I did not know about, but it didn't come with any plugins. Talking about gaming. Didn't come with any plugins. Hey, on top of this, don't run red lights, be a good person. There's the Kendrick plugin. That guy with the brain that's his and he owns and it's in his head every day? Yeah, you should probably nurture it and should probably nurture your central nervous system. And you probably should understand how you think and how you really interact with the world versus how you believe you should interact with the world. And if I said this today to this person. I'll shout her out. Her name is Samantha too. Shout out to Samantha at the pharmacy and VA Loma Linda. She really gave me some insight or maybe confirmation. She didn't really talk more about autism. I'm more talking about it. But she gave me some insight into white culture from her perspective. And I told her that, I said, I believe racism is it's a mental health issue. It should be in a DSM. Because most people who are racist are giving that information, this false information, or pattern information, stereotypes we want to call them, from a grandmother, a father, an uncle. And you're in whatever society that has no Black people in them. So how could you really have anything to say about Black people if you're only seeing them on TV? If you're only seeing it on the media, which we know are either left or right, that has agendas to abide by, how could you call yourself a true judger of anything if you don't have what? Facts. So I believe racism is in a category like anything in a DSM. You and some of the actual things in DSM are what's called comorbidities. You may have a foundation of ADHD. And I should warn anybody listening to this podcast today, I am not a professional, as they say in podcasts. I am not licensed. I am living it, which I believe is better. I'm not just studying it, I'm living it and studying it. I just don't have a degree. But it should be categorized in DSM because a person with comorbidities you might have ADHD, right? If it's not treated, then it turns into major depression because you're not getting this outlet that you should. Let's say, for instance, you should have this is really kindergarten example, but seatbelts really bother you. So you need a seatbelt adjuster so it doesn't cut into your neck. But everybody has the same seatbelt. It might adjust a little bit, but it's not comfortable. It's putting too much pressure on you. Whatever. When that happens, now you putting up with the fact that the seatbelt's putting too much pressure on you, even though it may seem to somebody else not that much pressure, it's too much pressure, is causing depression. Depression not treated, major depression. Major depression not treated. Now you might have a personality disorder because you're now trying to find your locus of control over your environment. Because that's a big part of borderline personality disorder, is a locus of control. And that's also another villainized one. But if we just got to a point with like racism where we just recognize that these people don't really know that they're being racist, then we could stop getting mad. Because you sent me a little article on the Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I'm a black person. I don't know that, but it would be assumed that I'm black and I should know that, right? It's the assumptions that make racism very categorizable to something you should see in DSM, because there are a set of bylaws that are in the brain to operate, and everything's viewed through these bylaws and these stereotypes. But if you were actually able to do facts, would you still do them? Now, the other side person will go, well, if you had a person with ADHD and they can't help that they forget, they can't help that they don't have the greatest executive function, so would they still do it? Yes, they would. But if they had a bridge of help with those executive functions, it would lessen, but they can't help it. I believe people with racism, they can't help it because they never had a bridge. They had a full picture of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes the person at a very foundational level of human to go, no, that's not right. And if you don't have a no, that's not right in your brain, you're thinking that the person telling you this stuff about black people or any other race, or white people, if it's black, go on to white, because I'll make it super neutral, people. I don't want to say white people, black people, and Asian people. If you had the proper knowledge from the source or books or just anything that just shows you differently than what you're thinking, you wouldn't be racist. And you probably would because of the comorbidities of it all. But if you had help with proper information, you start to come to balance. In the bipolar world, you're manic or you're depressive. You're too manic, you're so happy it's a little uncomfortable. You're too depressed, you're down in the dumps, and then you're happy, and so on and so forth. But that balance is where that medicine gives you the ability to interact with not going out and driving your car in a baseball field naked because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's fun, but there's people watching. You know what I'm saying? So, it's fun to want to touch a black person's hair, but you can't go touching the hair first. Ask, be vulnerable and say, I'm ignorant. I don't even know why black hair is curly, but I'm curious and I genuinely don't know. Because there's the other side. I'm doing what, at least I'm being less racist by showing you that I'm interested. That's diet racism. You know what I'm saying? So genuine interaction in this world is how we'll start to understand racism, mental health, everything. Just genuine take your egos down, man. We don't need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps anymore. You're a grown ass man. You don't have to, your parents don't tell you what to do no more. You can actually go on Google, not TikTok, and watch 20 million videos that are entertaining you and actually learn about what you're ignorant about. You know?
Yep.
And that's what I'm doing. I've taken a year out of my, I should go work, I should do this as a parent, I should do that, and stop saying what I should do, because I'll be honest with you, my intuition was built strong because of my proactive DIY attitude. But we've parented the best way we can, and it didn't work. We still kept doing it. But you know what I'm about to say? The definition of insanity is doing something expecting a different result over and over. It's insane. You're internally spinning a clock over and over, and taking that time out for my mental health is hard because I had to stop being a trucker, start realizing that my son needs me, start realizing that Sam needed me, and realize the damage is done from trying to live societal norms, even though I'm probably on the better side of things, because any woman's going to go, my man got a job. But if your woman is struggling with sensory processing disorder and, physical disabilities, there's a different mentality that needs to happen. There's a paradigm shift that needs to happen. Scientifically, a paradigm shift is a perspective change from what you're used to, so we can actually produce some results and evolve. But I'm glad we're talking right now, because dissociation is lifting, because I'm speaking clearly and truthfully about things that I'm struggling with. People are busy shooting first and asking questions and making you feel like you can't talk. Like, oh, I can't talk about my son about bipolar. My psychiatrist tried her damnedest to push that diagnosis on me, because she saw, when I meet with her every freaking 3 months, that I was keyed up. Burnout from parenting, burnout from being me, because being ADHD and all the D's that I have, I'll list them all today, is tough. And I don't have an orientation, like I said earlier, about them. Be glad that I'm not a Timothy McVeigh. I just dated myself right now. That's an old school building blowing upping person. But be glad I have it, because I was built enough to withstand all the pressures with all the struggles, and I actually decided to get help. But if we're not going to give each other a chance by just actually listening, then we're going to keep making people high in the dark and go to work all happy when they're really not. I want to take a sick day, but I can't because I got to go to work. I want to get my mental health right, but I can't because I got to pay my house, got to pay my bills. You know what I'm talking about? I got to go Uber but really we're dealing with some major internal changes that are happening as we get older. Because when you get older, your brain is not the same brain as your 20, 30, 40.
Yeah, true.
I'm fucking 47. I don't act 47 because my brain is not set to numbers. My brain is set to what it's set to. This is me. This has been me. The difference is I'm older. And the difference is now the rest of my life will be a little different, because, yeah, I'm actually getting from the woman that I separated from a compliment on my mental health. We have worked through our own co-parenting. We have done our own couples therapy. Because guess what couples therapy is going to do? They're going to bill you for talking. They're going to do role playing. They're going to use all the wonderful things in the DSM, all the wonderful education, but they're not going to take the real person and have themselves sit in the real person's world for that hour. Don't waste my time with your education, because your education is subject to be outdated. If parents and their ways are outdated, what do you think about your education? I mean, Sigmund Freud and all the people, I think Sigmund Freud is the father of psychology, I believe.
Yes, he is.
If he came up with it, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't go, yeah, follow what I'm saying for eternity because it's the truth. Now we're kind of getting religious. We're just saying the Christians, and we're saying the Catholics, we're saying these people are true forever. There's harmony and diversity. So if you were, as a therapist, to actually sit in the real couple's life and take notes, because they sit there and take notes, you'll get real-time feedback. Your research is being done by scholars that do research, and you go in your book and read, and they update the DSM. It's still a DSM-5. One day it's going to be a DSM-6. But those are scholars sitting in, they're doing studies with people, like not lab ready, but they're doing what the doctors should be probably doing themselves, and the therapists should do themselves. Go out to the world. This crazy, the world is called a chaos theory for a reason. It's not a theory. This world is chaos. It's a beautiful chaos because there's harmony and diversity. So if you go out there and you really assess the couples that are struggling, all three of us have sensory processing disorder, you'll understand that this is much deeper than medication. This is a personal understanding of self, so that way you can communicate your needs. Then the other person even knows what those needs are. We didn't know what our sensory needs were. We didn't know because we had to go through the trial by fire, and that we're still here. And I will say it very clearly and proudly that we did that. We made it through the fire. There was a time where I asked my nurse practitioner at the time, because nurses can issue medicine too, if you didn't know that in the psychiatric world. I told her, there's a monumental amount of stress at the house, and if I don't get help, I don't know. These are the key words that either going to be 5150 or you're going to have Child Protective Services called on you. I don't know if someone might be hospitalized because of burnout. Blah, blah, blah. Hospitalized. That's the only word that she heard. I said I'm a veteran, so I get my veteran resources. Next thing I know, Child Protective Services is there. Making sure the child's okay. Making sure he's fed. Was that our issue? No. My issue was that we're burnt out and we just need help. But what happens in that case when you say something and you don't know that's the word they're looking for to incriminate you, because these things go on your record forever, 5150s, Child Protective Services, then you actually did a disjustice, like a kid going to foster care. You can go to right foster home and be great. You can go to wrong foster care with someone who's just caring about the money and further go into the hell that makes child development worse and child abuse worse. So we had to slowly but surely over the last 6 years with Diego learn not to trust medical professionals because they're conditioned to hear words to give a diagnosis or call the right person. And if you ever, I'm not sure if have you been through therapy?
No.
This is a perfect, man.
Never been to therapy all my life.
I'm the perfect friend to help you understand I've been through so much therapy, bro. I've heard are you hearing voices? They ask you questions that will highlight bipolar. It will highlight schizophrenia, ADHD, and all the baseline mental health issues that plague I want to use the word plague, I'm a neurodivergent, that are hot points in our society for psychology. And they'll ask it, even if they've been asked for the last, they don't keep the record. They keep the record, but they don't read none of it. So they're busy just making warehouses of notes on your stuff and asking you these same questions, further aggravating you, further not helping. It's very similar to, I would believe, the prison system. You never went to a prison system and it was a place that looked healthy. It looks like a place that should make you more depressed and want to do worse things, because our society is conditioned to punish. If you did wrong, you should go to a place that looks wrong. If you're talking about therapy or corrections, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, by the way. I'm just a very opinionated person. If you went to a corrections facility, the first part of that is correct. It should look like a healing place. It should look like, to the person who's disenfranchised, who did wrong by society's norms, a place that is healing the mind, not the behavior. But it's not that way. You go to an office, it's not an hour, by the way, it's 45 minutes, because they need 15 minutes before they get to the next client. And 45 minutes is what they're billed. They're billed 45 minutes. They're not billed an hour. So if you ever go to a therapist and they're rushing you, it's because you have to, almost in a ways, assess yourself before you get there and organize yourself before you get there, because they're going to just listen and go, what do you think about what you just said? And mirror back, because that's what psychotherapy is. It's a verbal processing. But they become so stuck in the ways of the way they present the information and just hearing, they forget the person doesn't know. I'm talking it out. If I can talk to my friend, I'm talking to you because you've done research and you went to school. Ask me what I think about it, but you should be deciphering information almost like a computer and going, it sounds like this. This is something that I think I want to, take the information and start piecing it to the information you've studied in school, studied in other patients, and studied, because we're in a place in this world where ADHD, bipolar, and all these things are no longer going to just be words, because this conversation, personally, I'm going to copy and paste a gazillion times. I'm a Mike Jones. If you repeat something over and over, the world got to know. Because if you haven't been to therapy and you're human, and like most humans, they get overstimulated by the world and it becomes a fucked up place. But you're still busy doing what you're supposed to do because that's what you think you should do. You need therapy so you can work through that. But some people don't know how to talk and articulate themselves, so you'll get stuck going to therapy forever. And they really won't pull out the real stuff because it's not a person who's deciphering what you're saying. They're just recording things so you can get judged. So dissociation, going back to that, happens as a result of constant burnout, constant invalidation, constant misunderstanding, constant judgment. It's a trauma response. So trauma is the result of what you just experienced that you weren't emotionally, mentally, or psychologically prepared for. And now your brain is scrambled, trying to make sense So it's like when we do on photography, we shoot with a trifecta: ISO, shutter speed, f-stop. If your ISO is too high, you're going to have some burnout. And if it's, you might have noise in your shot. F-stop's not good. You might not have a picture at all. Shutter speed too fast, you also will have, a completely white out shot. But if we're not looking at the balance aspect of it, we're just going to keep getting really effed up shots,
Yeah.
So it's like dissociation happens when you don't go to therapy. You don't even have a neurofeedback. This person now just grabs a gun or grabs some pills because this is pain. And some people can only handle pain physically or emotionally so long. But we shouldn't, as a society, be going, woe is me, I don't want him to die. You shouldn't die. Ask questions. Why do you want to die? What do you perceive you're going to get out of it? Okay, cool. Do you realize that this emotion that you're having, it's like a wave? Now the person's like, oh, okay. And emotions like a wave, waves come and go. Now you're associating something to something you can physically understand, whereas that emotion is real as the video picture we're talking on. It's real. It seems like it's the end of the world, and you've been through it so many times, and dissociation happens, and you've completely, what's another? Have you seen Inception?
Inception, yeah.
So
I have.
it becomes a trauma within a trauma within a trauma, and your responses are going, all right, I can't process. I already took a fucked up picture. Okay, let's just store that one. And then you get on your hard drive and you have a file for messed up pictures that you want to look through, but you don't have time to deal with it because you took 80 pictures. When you go on a photography shoot, you're going to take 100 pictures and only 10 of them, maybe if you're lucky, 20 of them were really good. If you're amazing like me, 80% of them were good. No, I'm kidding. But you start filing them because you're hoarding. Trauma is like hoarding bad experiences that you can't process, and your brain is locking away, filing them, and it's like Inception. You lock them away within another storage, within another storage, within another storage, to the point where you haven't processed it, and then you start dissociating because you're trying to understand why it keeps happening. Then things don't become real because you can't trust anything. It becomes a trust issue in the very fabric that is your world. You're not going to get that from a therapy session. A therapist is not going to get that from a therapy session. You're going to get a PowerPoint, and this is no clap at my therapist. It's just I'm bringing it up because she did. She gave me a PowerPoint. And I'm just glad because I was like, most of it has been me talking, and I'm tired of talking. I'm kind of exhausted with it. I now need to understand why. But her doing that was phenomenal because she heard me. The last session when I mentioned it, she heard me. So when I mentioned it, she had it queued up, and I was like, awesome. But it showed me that even though we didn't really kind of go over in time, again, the billing got to 45 minutes, I was able to see that, okay, she's listening, and we're going to start taking off and understanding what this dissociation is doing, because there are treatments for that trauma. It's called EMDR. If I'm not correct, anybody that's listening or in the comments, it's either EMDR or EDMR. I'll go with EMDR because I kind of confuse them. But it's in layman's term, it's going back and unlocking those doors. You know, like hypnotherapy, where they'll have you revisit the moment, but in a safe space so you can address these moments. That's real. You really can go back into your movie and go revisit scenes and understand what happened, why your brain couldn't process that. And if we're able to do that, then we're able to start understanding why we do what we do currently. Conversations change. But unfortunately, all of the things that I'm saying seems to be a part of like a fraternity of psychologists and psychiatrists. They get to understand all these terms. They get to high five themselves about the DSM. But I promise you, this word that I'm saying right now, DSM, he said DSM like 10, 15 times. What the fuck is a DSM? It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual on Mental Health. It's a manual that was brought up by a group of psychologists and psychiatrists way back yonder to categorize the behavior patterns of people, behaviors, and neurological patterns. Name them, and if you have certain amount of symptoms for certain amount of days, for certain amount of months, this is probably going to sound mean, but fuck it. Then you get the doctors who just, okay, match, he's bipolar. When if you really were looking at it, and this is a real thing too, depression could look like ADHD because you can have the same fog from being depressed and it look like a person who's ADHD that's forgetting, but you're forgetting because your brain is taxed or your brain doesn't have enough. Well, dopamine and endorphins and all that's associated with hence Adderall. Adderall is like, it's like a supercharged the central nervous system so you can have the pseudo happiness and pseudo motivation to complete washing your dishes today. But depression, I can't really expand upon it because I've dealt with depression so long, I didn't even know I was depressed until I was told I was depressed. But I understand it for me as they'll say in a diagnosis, well, unable to enjoy things you once enjoyed. I never enjoyed things. I don't naturally enjoy stuff. For me, I work myself up to enjoy things. I love cars, but I'm indifferent to them. I love Magic Mountain, but I'm indifferent to it. I loved Coachella, but that was that day. When I look back at the picture today, I was like, oh my God, that was such a great day. And I think that's the reason why I'm a photographer. If I didn't record or videotape my life, and I do this secretly, I haven't posted probably 90% of, if I were to post my stuff, it would be a game changer to the diary world because I document very vulnerable moments in my mental health and I just store them because it's a way for me. I just realized something. It was a way for me to process my trauma, even if it was a little bit of video for me to just one moment look back at it for a second. I was able to process it, because not saying what it is you're dealing with, like I am in this, this podcast, not saying something that causes comorbidities, that causes you to go from ADHD to another, and they're all on a wide spectrum. And the spectrum is just basically ADHD and depression can look just like this, but they're off by that much. Autism can look like ADHD, but it's off by that much. OCD can look like depression, but it's off by this much. They're all interlooping. But what happens in the world where you have doctors and psychologists who are mandated by the insurance companies, they're unable to truly do their jobs. So they're almost forced to give a diagnosis because they have to, in a ways, protect society. And they're protecting society with medicine that's going to help you, but they don't know whether it's really helping you because they were not going to be the ones monitoring that medicine. They're not. That's not realistic. They'll give you that medicine, and if you forget about it, they won't up it. It will just be at 150 milligrams of Wellbutrin until some psychiatrist is like, how long have you been taking this? I don't know, 20 years. Well, this is actually not good for your heart. Because these medicines actually have side effects, causes sleepiness, oily discharge, and all kinds of stuff. They say it as a by the way. These are uncomfortable symptoms. Oily discharge. Whoa. Dizziness. I'm a construction worker. I can't be dizzy. I'm a truck driver. I can't be dizzy. But these doctors give it to you because you came to them. And you meet the description. And the other part is if you don't comply, now you're incompliant when a certified doctor said these things about you and can hold up in a court of law, you are not compliant with your medicine. What does that put you? Into the 5150 category. This guy is not compliant. So now I've touched on so many controversial things. It's so funny, and I'm fluid with it because I've been living it. Now Big Pharma comes in. Big Pharma's like, well, we got to make sure this medicine's pushed. Well, federal government's like, well, these persons are taking Adderall for recreational purposes and studying. Well, these people really need it. But these people are abusing it. Well, we got to put them all in the same category because we can't afford to separate them. But that's the world that doctors are living in. Even the good doctors become a little skewed because they have to be mandated by these insurances. But getting back to the foundation, people, getting back to me, I'm proactively able to speak about this because I had to go above and beyond the doctors that are doing this and probably don't mean it or have become numb to it. But it's time to stop. It's time for us to really look at people and ask questions, then shoot and give a diagnosis. Because now we'll get into my diagnosis. Gotcha. 10 minutes. I've just recently gotten diagnosis, and we'll end it with this. I have gotten diagnosed with ADHD, more recently this year, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, somatic symptom disorder, a sensory processing disorder, auditory processing disorder, hinging on an autism diagnosis. Now, one can go, yeah, you can have all these diagnoses. But I actually went to my therapist and she goes, "Do you believe that you're borderline?" I was like, man, the person who did it, we thoroughly went over it, and I'm very clearly vetting who's, after doing this, very clearly vetting who I'm, you know, dealing with. And she was very much the doctor, was called good bedside manner. She had great bedside manner. So I trusted her. I trusted her. And when she gave me the feedback, because no, this is where I said you don't get the orientation. When she did the orientation for the first time in my life this year, I was able to get good feedback on why. And borderline narcissistic personality are the hardest diagnosis in the psychological world because they believe that these people aren't untreatable because they're not aware and they'll never admit it. That's not my case. So she was asking me, so you might be dying. I said, at this point, I'm a D student. I got a lot of D's. And like that song, throw some D's on that bitch. So I mean, it's been fun and hard re-identifying myself from a trucker, a dad, and all these things to just a person who's working on their mental health. And I'm grateful that I got a chance to speak on it because, like you said, people don't know what dissociation is. I hope after today you go look at it. I hope after today you go look at BPD, NPD, and you'll see that not all people with BPD are nuts. Not all people with NPD are super narcissistic. It happens as comorbidities to untreated or misdiagnosed stuff. So with that said, I'm bougie.
Yeah.
I'm a Kuma. There's a new name I was coming up with myself. I'm Ryukin Hayabusa. And Hayabusa was from the Fighter Doctor, got the game. But anyways, I've become a different person in general because I had to fight to understand all this stuff. And it's not me. There's another term, it's called I think it's hypochondriac, a person who's trying to be these diagnoses. I'm not trying to be any of those diagnoses. I'm really trying to understand who I am. And it just so happens that this DSM and the science behind it has corroborated enough to where I can use it to help myself. So Miss Eat a Dick Lady, I'm going to keep speaking on it, respect, but I'm going to keep speaking on it because we're going to get to a place where we're not going to be having this conversation. We're just going to be out there really helping people that are trying to commit suicide, really helping people that are saying I'm depressed, really helping people that just don't understand what's going on in their mind. And it just automatic help and knowing what to do. So yeah, what's for dinner?
Well, what is for dinner? It is going to be, I think, ribs. So, gonna help
I'm
her
going to have
season some ribs. How about you? What are you having for dinner?
I'm having a poor man's dinner because I'm still looking to get to work as a graphic designer and a digital media person and a person who talks his ass off. I'm going to have soup, and then you know what? Then I'm going to probably have something else. I'll figure it out, but it's not something that I thought in my head that's in the refrigerator because it's empty right now.
Yeah, I have recently cut back on rice big time, and I've only tasted rice, I think, just when I went to her parents' place. I only had like maybe a cup of rice, but I replaced rice with quinoa, and it is really good. I mean, I don't even feel like stuffed at all when I had that, and I've had that for 5 or 6 days now.
Man, that's considering rice is the Asian potato.
Yeah.
It's a good. I'm not big on rice, but jasmine rice and calrose rice I like.
Yeah.
But quinoa is surprisingly a really good substitute.
It is.
and it has protein versus rice doesn't have protein.
Yeah,
So
and
good choice, man.
I can really fit into my pants again.
That's a good feeling, especially
Yeah.
in our category of age. It's a good feeling to feel good with your body. Because looking at your dad, I call it a father figure.
Yeah.
Not a dad bod. Looking at my father figure, I'm like, that is who I am. And your body doesn't metabolize stuff like it used to. So you actually got to do work to
Right.
be young. You got to do
Uh-huh.
work to look good.
Yep. It all comes down to, exercising and eating moderately, taking some, taking a
Yeah,
cut on what you eat.
yeah. It is. It. You know what? I've been in nutrition a long time, and I'll say this:
Mm-hmm.
I eat happily, and I eat because if it makes me happy, I know when I'm happy, and I know when I have too much.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I've had a little bit too much of this, and this is just me because I'm not a addictive personality. I've heard the term. I'm not sure exactly how that actually works, but
Uh-huh.
I naturally can't stick to one thing very long anyway. But I eat happily because I don't want to. I tried eating the way this food, the quinoa, but that day I don't really want to eat that.
Mm-hmm.
Texture wise, I don't like the way it tastes. I want some rice, damn it, and I want a
Yeah.
lot of fat and some butter.
Yeah.
So, so
Believe me, I feel like that too, man. But I think I'm only gonna have like maybe 1 or 2 cheat days out of the week to eat rice. But yeah, I'm still sticking with the quinoa.
right.
Yeah.
So the quinoa is awesome,
Mm-hmm.
but I've learned that emotionally I'll start feeling not. You know how when you feel bad about something, you feel guilt.
Yeah.
It produces guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to feel guilty. I want to feel good. So I said, if I feel good, feeling good gives you endorphins and dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the feel good emotions, and serotonin. Those are the feel good emotions that regulates your nervous system. So I have done nothing different, and I have been losing. I take Adderall, by the way, and Adderall suppresses your appetite. And I've been off of it the last 3 or 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
but I still have been losing weight. Might be stress, but I've at least been happy with what I decide to eat, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a first because I've been following your same path of, you know, the paleo, the carnivore diet or whatever.
Yeah.
But quinoa, if you ever do quinoa, it's this one where I think you do quinoa, you do feta cheese, lime juice, and you put in your like those grape tomatoes. You
Uh-huh.
cut up some bell peppers and a few other like vegetables,
Yeah.
and then stir it up in a little. After you've cooked the quinoa, of course. And it's so good because it's obviously a very low carb situation, but that cheese is that crumble
Yeah.
cheese is what highlights it. So yeah, man, keep eating quinoa. It's actually really good and very filled, protein rich.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to add also, eating leafy vegetables sometimes in its place. Yeah.
Oh, you're not a big leafy
Well,
vegetables
like,
person?
yeah, and I'm just getting used to quinoa after how many years having not eaten it. Um, and of course, this new rice cooker cooks it like really good. And yeah, I just want to get that feel. Now I'm going on my, past a week of it now, and my body's adjusted to it. And yeah, I'll just try something else that's different, and I want to see how it works in my body, and hopefully, it'll continue to improve. Hopefully, that streak continues.
Well, so far you said you're fitting in your pants. I think you're doing pretty
Yeah.
good,
I
bro.
was struggling for the last couple of days, especially when I was on vacation in Tennessee over there in the Smoky Mountains. I can really feel that I was really out of shape. I couldn't really do the inclines as much. I can't, I was
Oh
struggling.
wow, yeah. Yeah, and it's demeaning where you're like, I've never felt like this. This is weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tennessee, I've definitely got to talk about that. You know, you've been on vacations and places. You have a lot of those on the podcast, so it'll be great to
Oh,
talk
thank
about.
you for seeing that.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be great to talk about health
Yeah.
in that because yeah, as you get older, the things you want to do and your
Hmm.
body's reality are like, yeah, so I enjoy hills, but not at all. So I
Hmm.
don't want to do that unless we start doing something different, like eating quinoa.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I was so stuffed, man, when we were in Tennessee. We didn't even like eat out. We ate actually in the cabin. We made good use of, the pan and all those kitchenware and everything, and we just, cooked food from scratch.
I can't even imagine. I mean, there's pancetta, okay?
Uh-huh.
That's the closest thing to quinoa,
Oh, they cooked that one.
right? So I can't imagine that being in a Filipino vocabulary. Quinoa. It's like, quinoa? You mean pancetta? Oh, quinoa? You mean, you know, but, and I don't even know where all quinoa started, but it's, like everything, like echinacea, big word.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was not the same texture as rice, but it's filling.
It is.
It is pretty filling, and if you partner it with the right things, like I was gonna say, tofu. I don't like the texture of tofu. It
Oh,
yeah,
I just started eating that thing in a soup.
like miso soup, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's the only time I truly see tofu on a regular basis. But tofu has not got a bad rap. It's outdated. It's like 90s. Tofu? You mean
Yeah.
quinoa? The new protein? Edamames? You mean quinoa?
By the way, do you eat hummus?
I love hummus, especially the ones
Hmm.
where they kind of add different flavor, like chimichurri or roasted
Uh-huh.
garlic. Or yeah, I love
Yeah.
hummus. Love, love, love hummus. It goes great when you um, throw it in dishes because most people are only
Hmm.
associated with pita chips and Mediterranean dishes, but
Yeah.
it just has. And what is hummus? Garbanzo beans. There's beans. It's meshed up garbanzo beans to a wonderful, mushy, delicious delight. But I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever, this is back when I was trucking, but it was chimichurri hummus, and I think it's a brand. I think it starts with an S, and it has this. It's just a wonderful flavor to throw on just anything when you're snacking. Trying to healthily snack anyway. Because as a truck driver, we gotta eat, but you
Yeah.
have to
Got to get some energy.
you have to intentionally put healthy thing. I have a bag sitting next to me, and I would put carrots and hummus
Hmm.
dip, and I would hummus dip with my carrots,
Yeah.
and kind of leave the pea chips out because I don't know officially if I'm gluten intolerant, but eating a gluten free diet really works with my gut biome. I don't get bloated as
Hmm.
much, and I think that's a big part of that father figure is that bloatiness,
Yeah.
looking like you're pregnant when you're not. You're just you have a one pack and it's forever.
That's been me for the last 4 or 5 months. Mm.
But you're fitting into your pants. And
Yep.
quinoa, fist bump quinoa.
Yep. Oh man, we should be talking about food on the next set of episodes.
We should, yeah, man. Yeah, because food is, if we're, again, me and mental health, food, yeah, we are what we eat. That's very true.
Yeah.
That's a big part of your mental health is putting the right, not, I don't want to say the cliche, putting the right food,
Hmm.
putting food in your body that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll parking lot that one because I've gone through the Fit for Life diet. I've gone through I'm not a diet person, but I've gone through eating styles that I thought worked, and I learned that vegetarianism and veganism is not my thing.
Hmm.
I need I need to bite an animal, not live, but I need animal protein. And anybody watching this that is a vegan or you don't need it, but that's an opinion. Again, going back to what we were talking about with paradigm perspectives, we're all individuals. Our genetic makeups are different, and
Yeah.
when you try something, and I gave up bacon for a hot minute. When I went back to bacon, it felt like it was missing. It didn't feel like, oh God, I'm so glad I don't eat bacon. You just
Uh-huh.
lose because you're eating mostly protein plant-based foods. You lose the lack of a better term taste buds for it. Your sensories lose the smells for it. You probably disgusted by it because now it's foreign. But your body's like, nah, dog. I need bacon on my ice cream. I need bacon on my tacos. I need bacon on my medicine. I need bacon on my toilet paper. I need
Hey Ken,
bacon.
did you ever had bacon on donuts?
Yes! I've had a donut burger. I had
Yep.
a because they used a donut as the bread.
Yeah.
I don't know where this place is. Please, someone in my trucking journey is a place I went to, and it was bomb, bro. It was bacon and donuts and meat together. It sounds like a nightmare, but it's good. It's good. It's good. And
No,
I think it was
it doesn't sound like a heart attack burger. Heart attack burgers.
in Vegas Heart Attack Burger.
Yeah. You had it?
Heart Attack Burger closed, isn't it?
I think so. I haven't checked.
Last I went down there, they had closed it, and I remember having a picture right in front of it where they
Mm-hmm.
stacked burgers to the ceiling and literally name it after death. A heart attack. You don't live from heart. Well, you do live from heart attack, but you don't come back the same. But yeah, man, it does sound like a heart attack burger, but it's great. I wanted to duplicate that moment. A donut, bacon, cheese, burger. I don't even think there was lettuce and tomatoes and all that stuff. It was just bacon, meat, cheese, and donut.
It's still showing it as open.
What's that?
I think it's called Heart Attack Grill. There you go. It's Heart
It's
Attack
probably
Grill.
uh,
Yeah. It's probably rebranded.
rebranded. Yeah, because it's
Neonopolis in Las
they
Vegas.
actually have a scale outside of the place, and I think the scale was to weigh the
Mm-hmm.
burger, literally
Wow.
weigh you in the burger or weigh you after the burger, but it was a scale outside, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
they're advocating unhealthy eating in a major direct way. But then I go back to the happy eating thing. Is it unhealthy if you're happy? Subjective, because
Yeah.
I never technically ate there, but my version of that was that donut burger. Fat burger, even though it's a California thing, it's really good, but it's not the same. But Heart Attack Burger, they're advertising. We're gonna stack 10 patties together with tons of cheese and grease and all these things, and they might as well say we're gonna have an eating competition to see who can eat all of it, and then we'll give you a free burger. Because that's how crazy that Heart Attack Burger. You're gonna die.
And what they call the classic donut burger? They call it the Luther burger.
Really?
Yeah, it's a hamburger or cheeseburger with one or more glazed donuts in place of the bun.
A Luther burger. Thank you for researching that, man. I'm without my extra. I'm on my phone, so I don't have an extra computer device. Um,
It's between 800 and 1,500 calories.
out this alarm because I set
Oh.
myself to remind myself, so I'm not sure if it starts the podcast over again. But
Oh.
a Luther burger. I'm glad. I've been searching for a long time. That moment was it was like having culinary magic in my mouth. Like
Uh-huh.
what just happened? I just more recently. Uh, are we running into your dinner time? I think we passed him.
Probably just like 5 more minutes will do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. We're just
But
having too much of a good time. Time is just passing by.
yeah, and I appreciate you letting me just go at it because I needed
Yeah.
to. I've been dissociating a lot lately. And I really needed to again get more than my 45 minutes
Hmm.
of therapy and because. But anyways, I more recently mixed apple juice and lemonade together.
Oh, how did that taste like?
Amazing, bro. I love apple juice and I love lemonade. Amazing. I'm like, why did I never
Gonna
do
have to put that
this?
together. I'm gonna play around. I'm gonna put that together too.
Dude, I'm not sure again because all the brands vary from coast to coast, but Langer's apple juice um, is, I'm trying to think. Martinelli's is like the Lamborghini of apple juices. It's freaking
Hmm.
expensive as all hell. But
Yeah.
Langer's tastes very much the same. So it's like if I have a Lamborghini, but I want to drive a Lamborghini, I'll get an Audi. They're owned by the same
Hmm.
company. And I'll get the base model. So I got but it's still really, really good. So I said Langer's and Simply I'm not sure the brand. I think it's Simple Lemonade, Simply Lemonade, whatever.
Was it Simply that part of the Simply brand?
It's
Sim?
Simply brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mixed those, dude, and I think I did a ratio of 50-50.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I did a ratio of 50-50. Or I think I did maybe a little bit more lemonade because I wanted to taste lemon. I did a
Uh-huh.
50-50, and I did it in both combinations. It's like literally having, and I'm a major apple juice bird. I love fucking apple juice and love lemonade. It's like magic. It tastes like magic. If you're have a favorite juice that you know in your head is your go-to drink,
Uh-huh.
it's like that over and over. And it just took one day going, you know what? I'm gonna mix this. That's how I started cooking, by the way. I started
Yeah.
cooking by just mixing stuff together because I just wanted to
That's
see
that's
what
the,
they.
that's the that's the fun part, man. Is mixing
Yeah,
stuff together.
experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son does it a different way because again, he's he's him, but I'm in him, so he's like taking stuff from the bathroom cabinet and mixing the makeup remover with Noxzema. I'm like, son, how do I say this? It's dangerous.
Hmm.
Let's go mix some food. That's not as dangerous. It's just going to taste gross. If it tastes gross, you're in the bathroom, and one, I don't want any makeup remover in my Noxzema, and two, it's a chemical reaction. I appreciate your experimentation stuff, but let's not experiment here. Let's wait till you're about not this age, and then
Hmm.
we'll try that part. But yeah, experimentation is, I think, the foundation of any major chef. They, people think, oh, these people are the greatest. They cook because they love experimenting and testing the boundaries of taste. You know,
Yeah.
and probably most cooks don't clean up after themselves, so they're busy in there just mixing shit up and don't like the cleanup process because I don't. So but yeah, dude. I'm
Yeah.
maybe if you look it up, maybe there's already maybe it's not nothing new. Just like there's tea and lemonade is an Honor Palmer, right?
Yeah.
So maybe apple juice and lemonade ain't a thing, but it's not common. I don't go to the store and see that mix. I'll
No.
see mango, pineapple dole juice. Really? Pineapples, mangoes, cherries juice? Okay. The most common ones like, let's mix orange juice, apple juice, and lemonade. Those are ones you see on the stand all the time. I've never seen those combinations in one bottle sold on the stores. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to risk it all and mix apple juice and lemonade together.
All right, Ken, I am going to close this one out, running out of time. It's about that time to go out there. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you so much, being on this podcast, explaining everything thoroughly in the best way, possible through your own perspective, through your own knowledge and everything. So
it's my perspective.
It's a lot to absorb sometimes, but I'm gonna get the hang of it.
Yeah, and I realize that a big part of my struggle is I am a mega warehouse of information, and it's a lot to absorb. But it happens, and the podcast world is a place
where you can
you can rewind.
Yes.
You can take the time to digest.
I listen to it. I listen to your stuff like on the way to work sometimes, or
Really?
on the road. Yeah, on the road. Yeah, listen to it. So,
well, I
mean, I may not get it like right then and there, like I'm talking to you right now. But then when I start listening to it, I'm like, oh, especially the one when you had like Claire on with us. I started getting a lot more with that. Yeah,
you're right. Because, and again, that's nothing. You brought up a good point. It helps me from a neurodivergent. You know that girl in the movie Leo?
No.
Okay, so there's a girl. She talks a lot, a ton. And the faces that people get when she's talking, she goes, people just dumb or numb out because they've reached their capacity of information.
Yeah.
But your brain is still processing, because I'm processing like this all day. I had to learn how to fold back.
Yeah.
And that even helped me realize I don't even like talking anyway. It's just my brain speaking out loud. Yeah. But yeah, it does feel good to know that at least the information is, somebody does go back and listen to it, because I don't even go back and listen to what I said. And sometimes I go, damn, this dude's dope. Damn, I said that shit. Wow, that was embarrassing. But it's good I appreciate you saying that, because I often feel vulnerable being such a talker.
Yeah.
But it does, it has its purpose. Cool. Education, most of the part.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So I really appreciate everyone that's been on this podcast. Whether you have the sleepy eyes, the I'm over it eyes, I'm bored, you will get something out of this, I guarantee you. Yeah. And click subscribe, follow, like. It's greatly appreciated, because the block is a place you should feel comfortable to talk and listen, and it's a safe space.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so
the no judgment zone.
The no judgment zone. Even though I said things, I always try to find the balance in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm open to be, corrected on anything I say, but it's
yeah.
It's good that the block is that safe space, and I feel grateful that you allow me to wingman with you and talk talk that truth.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching us, and we'll catch you again in the next episode.
Thanks for checking out this episode of 2400 Block Podcast. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.